Hello, creative friends. This is Joy coming to you actually with several art journal pages. And this is my Dylusions art journal, where quite some time ago, actually, it must have been like at least a year ago when I got the art journal. I was playing around in it with some sprays and some inks, and on several different pages, I had done background, so I decided I would go ahead and do something with these pages and, put something on them. So here I went through my stash and I found items that I wanted to put on each page. And I'm just going through on this particular page and cutting out the title and the picture, and then another like quote that I found in my stash that I wanted to add to this page. And as you saw on the smaller quote, I used a corner rounder on it. And on this quote or title, I decided that I wanted to cut it apart, that I didn't want to put it on the page as one piece like I originally thought I would do. And so I'm trying to determine how I'm going to place these items on the page and where I'm going to place them and putting them down. So I'm using golden gel medium to put down the images on the page. And the title at the top says, "Believe in yourself. Believing in yourself makes anything possible." And the smaller quote at the bottom just says, "Always be more than you appear and never appear to be more than you are." So both of these I found in magazines, and I've had them for who knows how long, a long time. And so I thought that that would, go well with this page. I have quite a few images and titles and quotes that I've been collecting through the years from magazines and the coffee news that, we find in the restaurants around town, and other areas that I like to kind of, hang on to, and then eventually, I go through them and use them on journal pages. So here I'm using my Posca pens to outline the title and then the quote. And I was going to outline the picture, but then when I got to that part, it just seemed to me like the picture needed something more like a frame rather than just an outline on it. So here I'm outline the quote at the bottom, and I find this washi tape in my stash that I think goes well, but I didn't like the thickness of it. I wanted to have like a thinner border around the picture, so I cut off a piece the length that I need, and then I cut that in half, as you see me doing here, which was not really very easy to do because, as you can see, it kept sticking and curling and giving me some problems. But I managed to get it cut in half. I probably would have, after the fact, I was thinking it probably would have been a lot easier to get out my glass mat, stuck it on there, and then used a ruler and a razor knife that I have to actually cut the thing in half. I mean, of course, that would have been so much easier, but I tend to always take the, hard way out of doing anything. So there you go. Always picking the most difficult way to do stuff. That's me. So I put those pieces down as a border around the picture. And then because my edges were, not very straight, I decided to use the Posca pen to draw around the edge of it to kind of clean up and straighten up the edge a little bit. So here I draw, use it to draw around to straighten that up. Like I said, it would have been, I could have done this a little bit easier, but whatever. It's just an art journal, and it's fun, just fun to do. So I felt like at this point that it needed a little something more to the page. I mean, the background's pretty busy as it is, but I still felt that, it could use something more to this particular page. So I got these stickers, these butterfly stickers, that I like. And so I was looking through them to see if one of them would work on this page. And I have another book of butterfly stickers, so I decided that that one that I originally grabbed would work best. But I don't like that it's got this white border around it. So here I'm just trimming it up to get some of that white off from around it. And I'm not trying to, cut it perfectly, but, trying to get as close as possible to it, and cutting around the little antennas on the butterfly and then sticking it on the page. I could have cut the antennas off and drew them back on, but I just cut around them. So then the second page, this is the second page with some sprays on it from playing with a stencil. And these are the images that I found that I thought would work for this page. And I found an image of a car that I thought would work on the page, but then when I turned it over, I saw the green car, and I'm like, wow, I kind of like that too, that both of them go well with this page. So I decided to make this like a little extra kind of flip on the page. But at the top of the image of the green card, it had some words up there that I didn't like, so I just cut out and glued on there, I count my blessings. And then here is another quote I found that I wanted to put on a piece of cardstock before adhering that to the page. And so this tag here I've had in my book for a while and intended to use on this page was a tag my granddaughter had made, and I thought it went well with the page, but I felt like it needed something more on it. So I found another quote to put on the tag. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm cutting it out so that I can put it down on the tag. And it says, now and then it's good to pause in our pursuit of happiness and just be happy. So that's what that says. So I adhere that down onto the tag. And then all these other images that I found, I did the same with them as far as adhering them down to the page. And this particular image of a face is such a large image that it's hard, especially with thin paper like what's in magazines, to get it down. So I found it's easier to actually put the glue on the page and then slowly kind of work on getting the image to stick down to the page. And then once I got it down, I used a credit card, as you could see there, to smooth it out. Then I covered the top of the page with some of the gel medium. So that's how I got all of these images down, the face. And then I have this picture of a clock, which it's small enough I can just put glue on the back and stick it down. And then this other quote that says, hello, traveler. As you make your way along life's tumultuous highways, it's important to note that you should always carry a map, have plenty of fuel in the tank, and take frequent rest stops. So I thought that was kind of appropriate for, the page and what I was planning to put on here. And then I have the making sure that that's in the right place to where I want to put the tag, and that my tag's not going to cover up any of the words, and then covering that up with the gel medium. And then I have a title that says time that I thought, was kind of cool that I put on here as well. So I'm covering the back of that and the top of that with some gel medium as well. And then once I get all of these images on the page and I let them dry, then I come back and try to put the rest of it together. So here I'm cutting the quote that's on the cardstock, and that quote says, "Life is the most spectacular show on earth." And so I want that up in the upper corner. And I decided that the face, the image, needed a border around it, so I got some washi tape to put a border around the picture, and it was giving me some problems because it was kind of a long piece that I was trying to add, but I managed to get it on there. And it probably would have been easier just to put the washi tape around the border first and then put that other image on there, but it doesn't matter. So I liked it better after I framed it. And then I wanted to put some washi tape or a frame around that image that says time. And this is a little bit bigger washi tape, but it kind of, and it's got a little bit different design than the other washi tape, but you know, it kind of matches what I used on the picture. And at the end, I do show some close-ups of these pages. So I pulled out my Posca pens again and decided to trace around a couple of these elements with the black Posca pen. I felt like that this image here needed a title, and it smeared. But then I was like, oh well, who cares? I'm going to cover it up with that tag anyway. So at first I was like, oh crap, and then I was like, oh well. And even if I didn't cover it up, it wouldn't have mattered. And then I draw around, and here when I was trying to draw around the clock, I smeared it on the other picture. I kept getting my hand into it, and there I smeared it again. So I was not having much luck with it. I should have waited a minute to let it dry, but oh well. And then I decided that the quote on the tag could have used a little bit of black around it, so I traced around it with the pen. I mean, the Posca pen and around the quote on the tag. So the Posca pen does dry rather quickly, but you got to give it a minute or two. I mean, it doesn't take long, but you know. Yeah, so here's the image of the cars that I wanted to put on the page, and here I was like, well, better make sure it's dry. So I'm trying to figure out where I want that on there, and I'm using the washi tape to make a flap with the image of the two cars. And then trimming the tape. So I thought that was kind of neat, you know, to have a little bit of that little extra flap on there. But then I decided that it needed some black border around it. So I grabbed some wax paper, put it underneath it, and then I'm using my Posca pen to put a little bit of a black border around it. And again, I probably should have waited a minute for it to dry, but I didn't wait very long. Well, I tried to give it a blast, but I don't think it was very dry. And I'm just kind of smudging it around. And I do the other side the same way. And try not to smear it, which is not easy because I seem to keep getting my hand in it. By the time I was done with this page, I had that black all over my hand, trying to give it a quick blast, and then rubbing it just to make sure that it's dry. And then I use these Craft Bond adhesive dots, is what they're called. They're called glue spots, to adhere the tag and then the quote to the page. And these things are pretty sticky. Would a couple times accidentally touched one, and then it was sticking to my finger, and I couldn't get it unstuck, and it was a mess. So they are definitely very sticky, and will, adhere anything to your page that you need adhered. So that's pretty much this page, and then I decided to finish outlining that quote on that picture that says, "I count my blessings," and making sure it's dry before I turn the page. So then on this art journal page, I have a picture of a teapot and a teacup that I thought was kind of nice, pretty, and went with the background. And I'm showing you here where I'm cutting around it. A couple of these I show you, like me cutting around, just to show you that I don't really do any fussy cutting. I just kind of, just quickly trim around the images. And then this was bent on the edge where it was on the cover or inside of a cover of a magazine, so I was just trying to straighten it out and trim it up. And I wanted to put that there on the edge of the paper. I thought it'd be pretty to find something to go on that edge where there's no pattern to it. And then I found another little kind of quote for the bottom. So the title on the left side says, "Life is sweeter than I've ever dreamed." And I put it, on the one page with the teapot and the teacup. And then on the other page, with the picture, it's actually some peonies, and it says, "There's a story behind everything, but behind all your stories is always your mother's stories, is always your mother's story, because hers is where yours begins," which I thought was kind of cool. And then that one little one there I'm sticking down says, "Wherever you go, go with all your heart." So I thought those were, neat quotes to add to this page to say, what it was that I wanted to say on this page. And then I'm using the gel medium to adhere the images down, but also going over the top of them to make sure that they're adhered down well. And there's a couple areas where it wasn't adhered as well as I wanted, so I was just fixing those. And then once that dried, I grabbed my Posca pens again. So at first I was going to go around everything in pink, but that wasn't really showing up. And then I grabbed the light blue, and that didn't seem to show up. So then I grabbed the dark blue, and that seemed to do the trick. So I went around the title and then the teapot with the dark blue Posca pen, and then the little quote that was on the right side page with the Posca pen. Like I said, these backgrounds were ones that I did, at least a year ago when I got this Dylusions journal, and I was just playing with sprays and stuff in this journal, trying to see what different things I could do in it. So I figured it's probably about time to do something with these pages, to put something on them instead of just leaving them like they were. And so for this little image on the right hand side, I decided to put some washi tape. So I found this washi tape in my stash that I thought would go well with the page and the colors and the images and stuff, and use that to put a border around this image. And I could have put it a little bit more in the center, I guess, of that strip, but I kind of have it a little off center, but oh well, it is what it is. I don't stress too much about those things. My art journal is definitely not perfect. So this here Most of these elements are already cut out. I just do some trimming up. And I was debating on that picture of the wolf, of cutting it out because it's a card. But then I decided, I'm going to leave it as a card and put it down because I can probably write something on the inside of that. I didn't yet write anything in there, but I may go back and write something in there. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. So I'm just trimming up these images that I found in my stash that I thought would work well with this page. And this quote here, I do kind of do a fussy cut, I guess is what you call it. And I don't cut it out perfectly. I just try to get as close as I can to the edge. I really like the shape of it. It's got a nice shape to it. And so I wanted to cut it out, following the shape of that quote. And that quote says, "You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think." And the quote at the top that I want to put towards the top, and I'm trying to find some cardstock to mount that onto because I feel like it needs a border or something to stand out from the page, says, "The purpose of life is the expansion of happiness and the ability to love and have compassion," which I thought was kind of neat. And I found this bright pink color card, but I couldn't find one bigger. I would have liked to have had a little bit bigger. So I tried to trim the edges as close as I could, and it still was, it was barely fitting on there, but it wasn't going to really give me a border around it. And I didn't like the squareness of it. So you'll see here in a minute, I kind of cut around it and make it into a little bit different shape. I was like, well, I could put it on there and have a little bit of a strip of pink at the top and the bottom, but I just didn't really care for that look. So I kind of just trimmed around it and made it a little bit less perfect. There you go. Make it less perfect. and then it looks better. I don't know. So that I was happy with after trimming it up. And so I glued that down. And then at the bottom you could see there I was going to put down on the right side, "Now nobody can bring me down," which I thought was kind of neat. So I, you know, like the elements that I was putting on this page. And like I said, I want to go back and add some writing in that card, a little bit. So I put the quote aside to dry, and then I use the gel medium to put down the other images that I wanted to put on this page. I put it on the bottom and then put it over the top of these images, and making sure that they're down good and that they don't have too many bubbles and creases in them. And using a credit card helps, ensure that there's no bubbles in them. And actually, this image of a girl was cut off of a different picture of a. It was just scraps I was gonna throw away, but then I kind of liked it, and I'm like, I kind of like you know, the way she's standing with her back to you. I could probably use that on a journal page. So I'm glad I kept it. I threw it in my stash thinking, well, I might be able to use it for something, and I'm glad I kept it because I really like the way, using it on this page, how it, turned out and looks. And then I put down my quotes on the page. And again, this, the background's just another background where I was using stencils and sprays to play around, with it. And then once I got the images down, I trimmed up the cardstock with the one quote, and then I decided that it needed a border, so I got out my purple Posca pen and then drew a line around it to kind of give it a little bit of a border around the whole thing. So that just kind of helped tie it, bring it all together and tie it together with the quote. And then set that aside to dry. And then I grabbed my Craft Bond glue dots again to adhere the card down. So I went around, the whole outside edge of the card to put these glue dots on there and make sure that it got stuck down real good. So all in all, I ended up with, because I have one more journal page here that I'll be showing you. I end up with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different journal pages that I did. And they all turned out really neat, I think, and each one of them is different than the other, which I think is kind of cool. So then after this dries and I got down everything, I felt like that these two images needed a border. So I grabbed some washi tape, some purple washi tape, and used that to put a little frame around the two images. And I probably should have done this before I stuck down that title, but I didn't really think about it till after I put the title down, and then I realized I really needed something around that image and or a border or something. So it worked out. I was able to get it on there. And the washi tape, and here is another purple washi tape, and it matches the other, but as far as color, but it does have a different design, and it's thinner. So I kind of like that, because this washi tape that I got, it has like, for each color you have like a thicker one and a thinner one that are the same color, but yet they're two different designs. So that's kind of cool, because they match, but they're different. So I put a border around each of the pictures. And then I felt like that title at the bottom and the quote and the girl all needed something, outlining them. So I grabbed my Posca pen, my purple Posca pen, and then traced around the quote and then the girl, or the title and the girl and then the quote. And it's when I put these images down, I'm just making sure that's dry. It still felt a little damp. It did reactivate the spray a little bit and kind of smeared it a little bit, but I didn't. It doesn't bother me too much. I mean, I've learned, that's one thing I've learned with art journaling, is you just kind of got to go with the flow. Nothing's ever perfect, and you just go with the flow. Whereas when I paint, or used to paint on canvases, I used to get so frustrated with myself because everything had to be perfect and particular. And art journaling allows me to just have fun, play with supplies, paints, whatever, and enjoy the process and not have to worry about being so perfect. And I think it's going to in turn help me when I paint, go back to painting on canvases, to not be so fussy. So here I have a couple of quotes and images for this page. And that stencil on the right is a stencil of a hand-cut stencil that I did of a tiger, or a lion. Well, yeah, one or the other. I don't remember. I think it was a lion. That I made, I don't know, a year ago. It's been a while. And I just was spraying through it on this page to try it out. So I found this image of an Indian in my stash with this with, I don't know what you call it, like this little write up about this person or this Indian. And it says, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Tecumseh was one of the greatest Native American leaders, and although his confederation failed to defend the young United States' westward expansion, his London Fusel tells the story of the time in which he lived and the cause for which he fought. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then I found a tag in my stash that was from a clothing tag to add another quote to, which you saw me adhering down the quote on the tag that says, "We can't say how far we've come without knowing where we started." And then the quote over the top of the lion says, "Leadership is short, is power governed by principle directed towards raising people to the highest level of personal motive and social morality." James McGregor Burns said that. And then the bottom title or quote on the right hand side says, "We will become part of each other." So that's the different images and quotes and titles I decided to put on this page. And again, since the Indian's such a big image, I am putting the glue on the paper and then adhering him down little by little to get him down on the page, and then gluing over the top of him. And then I'm gluing down that write-up about him on there as well. And making sure everything is glued down securely. Oh, and here's where I glue down the title, or actually I'm fixing, because I noticed it wasn't glued down real well, so I use a skewer to get underneath where the edges sometimes aren't glued down as well as they could be. So I decided the Indian needed something around him. So I got out some black paint, and then I got out my black Posca pen and traced around the quote on the tag that I wanted to add to this page. And I smeared a little bit, but oh well. I tried to rub it, but it wasn't rubbing off, so I was like, well, I guess it's just going to have a smudge. And then I took a dry brush with that black and just kind of, went around the Indian in the quote with some black, just to kind of add a little bit more of a border around him. I felt that it just needed something more, which, I like the way, that it looked after I did that. And like I said, I just used a real dry brush. I didn't want it to be too, perfect or whatever. I just wanted it to be kind of a rough shadow. Well, I guess it's more than a shadow border around him. And then for my quotes, I decided to use some washi tape to do a border around the quotes because I felt like they needed something added to them. So I got out the black washi tape, the thinner one I put around the quote at the top. And then the thicker one I put around the quote at the bottom. And the top one kind of went over the edge a little bit, but I do come back and trim that up. And it's not really on there perfectly straight, so it ends up a little wonky, but oh well. Again, it is what it is. It's a page, and I had fun doing it, so that's what's important. Yeah, see there I was going to just, fold it over, but I was like, because if I put something on the other side, then you got this, like, piece of tape, so I just, decided, no, that needed to be trimmed. So that's what I did here, is just trimmed it. and then use the thicker washi tape to go around the bottom title. And here I kind of got it on a little crooked and then tried to pull it up, but then it started tearing up the paper. So I was like, oh, put it back down. I guess it's going to be crooked because it started tearing that title. But oh well. And then I used the black Posca pen to, trace around some of the elements around that quote and then around the other title. And that was kind of going off the edge too, so I was trying to trace around it. And then I use my craft glue dots to, first of all, actually, I decide to put raffia on it, and then I do use my craft glue dots to adhere that tag. So that's pretty much the 5 art journal pages that I did. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you can hit the like button, or you could subscribe to my channel to see more videos that I put out each week. Or you can leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. I really enjoy doing these art journal pages and sharing them with everyone. And I was really glad to finally get something on these, 5 pages that I kind of sprayed on a year ago and playing around with stencils and stuff. So now I have actually something on them and a good start to another filling up another art journal. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you have a good week. Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.